by 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on the planet that typically doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with homesteading off the grid. As you can see from behind me, I am in the Garden of Eden. Literally, I'm at a mountain resort right now, high above Davao City in Mindanao, Philippines. It's called Eden Resort, and it's on the way up Mount Apo, the highest mountain in the Philippines, which reaches a peak of over 10,000 feet. We're about halfway up. Sea level is just right down there, and I'm going to show you an amazing view of it at some point in this video. Now listen, as far as this video goes, I'm going to tell you a story that's true about my family and my experience over the last 10 days or so of this trip. It's a story that I wish I didn't have to tell. My family and I and my friends here from the Philippines, remember, in the last 15 years, if you haven't followed the channel, I've spent 8 of the last 15 years of my life here in the Philippines. This is my home away from home. It's my second home. The last 4 days have been wonderful, 3 or 4 days. The first 3 or 4 days were not so wonderful. They were terrible. They were nightmarish. For the first time in my life, and I'm in my 52nd year now, for the first time in that time, I was embarrassed to be an American. This is not a political video. It has nothing to do with who's in the White House or which political party affiliation I belong to, because I don't care about that stuff. I care about my life, my family, and how we live it. You know that if you followed me. So with all this said, I'm going to start walking around, showing you parts of the garden, all of it. I was getting ready to say if I can talk that long, but I think we all know that I can. So do your best to listen to me. Oh my gosh, here I am getting sidetracked with a beautiful butterfly. I hope I can get a wonderful shot of it. There it is. It's landed again. Let me see if I can get up close to it for you. Look at that. I love coming here, and I see all this exotic flora and fauna that we don't have there in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, and vice versa. So anyway, look at the view, but do your best to pay attention to me. So tragedy hit me back in February. My family and I, who, as you know, travel all the time, we were in Key West. Here's a couple of beautiful butterflies. We were in Key West, Florida. It was winter. Our water lines actually froze back home in Virginia, and I looked at my wife, my beautiful bride dearly, and I said, this sucks. Let's go to Key West until it warms up and the water thaws out. She goes, okay. So very shortly after that, we jumped in the truck and drove down to Key West and had a wonderful couple of weeks. But towards the end of our trip, my son Daniel got a phone call from one of his friends, who's a kid that I've actually coached in youth sports for years. He says, bad news. Coach Higgins died. It's my best friend. His name was also Kevin. And again, you've got to forgive some of the background noise. As you can tell, they beautifully manicure and landscape this place. And to make it look like this, they've always got to be working on it. So I'll do my best to stay away from weed eaters and grass blowers. Oh, I got to take you over here. I'm seeing flowers and butterflies like you won't believe. Yeah, his name was Kevin too. A lot of our kids' parents referred to us as the Kevins. I mean, the short of it is he had an aneurysm. He was 57. He had an active lifestyle. I mean, he coached year round except for the summer. That was our off seasons. Look at these. Look at this and tell me how you can't fall in love with this place. So that hit me hard. And I found myself thinking, man, what I'd give if to have one more conversation with him, have one more season to coach these wonderful children we coach back in the Charlottesville, Virginia area. But that will never happen. And I was crying there in my hotel room in Key West. And I said, okay, come on, Kevin. What can you do about it? Nothing. And I said, yeah, there is something I can do about it. I can think of other people in my life that I could reach out to and have another conversation with, maybe spend some more time with. And this guy that came to my mind, he's an old friend. We've known each other since childhood. And we had gotten out of touch for many years because I got out of touch with almost everybody from my past when I was in the war, when I was stuck in the Philippines for many years. Most of them I never reconnected with because I didn't have a reason to. But this guy and myself had reconnected. We would We would call each other on the phone. We'd gotten together a couple of times. I invited him to my house. He came up and visited. Didn't stay at the house. I offered him a bedroom, but he says, no, I'm not gonna. Him and his girlfriend came up, but they got a hotel in town, and we hung out for a few hours, had some cold ones, ate some food, dearly introduced them to Filipino food, but then they left. Well, and I likewise had been to his house twice, but we never really went anywhere. We would stay at his house, drink some cold ones, talk about the old times. We did go see a really neat science museum in the middle of town in the late morning. Then we went back to his place and started knocking back some cold ones. Then the next day, my family and I went back to Charlottesville. So when Coach Higgins, my best friend at the time, I'd coached with him for 8 years. When I got word that he was dead, I reached out to my old friend and I just said, hey, how are you? Are you okay? Is everything going well? Because it had been a month or so since we'd had contact. I want you to see how hard the people of the Philippines work for roughly $7 a day. These gentlemen, and while I'm recording this, it's 8:53 here. It's already hot and humid. You give it another 2 hours, it's going to be 90 degrees, even though we're halfway up this mountain. I'm having a hard time breathing right now because of the humidity and the elevation. These guys will work 10 hours and they'll get $7. But they'll smile and they're grateful to have that job because a lot of people in their country, it's hard to find work. So just take it all in. Isn't it beautiful? So anyway, we started communicating more, and he got the idea that he and I should take a trip somewhere this summer. And I thought that's a good idea. We could get together, spend some more time together. And I like to bring my family over here to our second home as frequently as I can. And we had to do it by the end of July because our son Daniel will start high school football here soon. Actually, the day after we return from this trip to the Philippines, Daniel starts football camp for tackle football. So we have to get back for that. So it's a short trip. It's only 2 weeks. Last time we came last summer, we stayed for 5.5 months. We just spent the winter here. So I said to my wife, I said, why don't we take my old friend? She says, well, I don't know. She's kind of hemmed and hawed about it. And I said, honey, I'm not going to have time to get it all in. And I don't want to miss going to spend even just 2 weeks with our family in the Philippines because I go somewhere with him. Not that I was viewing him as less important than that. But I said, let's combine the experiences. And she says, yeah, that makes sense. Now, this is an expensive trip. I'm just going to use real numbers. Originally, the trip cost $20,000. That's airfare. Our round-trip airfare for 4 people was $8,000 alone. The trips ended up costing $22,000. You're going to find out why here in a minute. I want to show you that side, but they're blowing leaves or some grass they just cut over there. I'm going to show you anyway. I know he doesn't have the financial resources I do. A lot of people don't. I've been very blessed with my 15-year career here in social media. Matter of fact, last month, and maybe it'll sound like I'm patting myself on the back, but I want to share this with you because you folks you're who made it possible. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have this success. Last month was my first 1 billion views month in my career. In the last 30 days, we've gotten 1.1 billion views just on one of our Facebook pages. We have multiple Facebook pages. We're on YouTube, Instagram, multiple platforms. So I told Dearly, I said, is it okay if I treat him? Because, maybe he can afford it, maybe he couldn't. It's none of my business, but I wanted to treat him. And again, I'm thinking back just 6 months ago, as of this recording, my best friend that died. And she says, yeah, go ahead and do that. I know we can afford it. And aren't these beautiful sunflowers? Beautiful. So I invite him. I say, hey, we're going to the Philippines for 2 weeks. If you'd like to join us, it's on me. You don't have to worry about airfare. You don't have to worry about any expenses when we get there. And frankly, it's cheap. One of our dollars is worth 55 of their pesos. But your real rate of return, as far as how far does your dollar actually go, it goes about 4 times. I said, I'll pick up everything. I'll pay for the beautiful resorts. Now, we stay in private cottages here. Dearly and I had our own private hut, all amenities. You can stay here for $70 a night. I mean, it's incredible. If you found a place like this in the U.S., it would cost $800 a night. And it's like that everywhere we go. We're resort hopping because there's so many wonderful things to do here. We're not checking into a hotel, staying there for 2 weeks, and going out clubbing. We're going around and enjoying the experiences. And I told my friend that. I said, we'll probably stay in 2 weeks at 4 or 5 different resorts. We'll go scuba diving, snorkeling, zip lining, island hopping on a private boat, which we did a couple of days ago. And it was the most enjoyable single day I've ever had in my 8 years of combined time in the Philippines. Well, look at the beautiful tropical fish. Well, look at these beautiful, beautiful tropical plants. I mean, look at this stuff, folks. It's incredible. And he says, I would love that. So he was so excited. I invited him about 2 months before we got here. He started watching stuff like documentaries about the Philippines, Southeast Asia, the coral reefs and all that on the Discovery Channel, YouTube, and he was so excited, and he'd call me. Sometimes he was scared because I'm in Mindanao. Where we stay here is in Davao City. All Western nations warn their people from coming here. I've never had a problem here. The reason Western nations warn their people from coming here is they make it sound like it's scary. There's these terrorists everywhere. They're going to kidnap you for ransom, behead you. That stuff happens sometimes, but that stuff happens everywhere around the world. Wow, I get to go under a beautiful canopy. I'll share it with you here. But the biggest reason why most Western folks should not come here is because they have a zero tolerance policy for disrespect and a lack of discipline. The city was mayored for over 20 years by Rudy Duterte, who would go on to become the president of the Philippines, who, while doing so, serving as president, would clean this country up more than I had ever seen it. When I left, Duterte had just become president. I came back right after he had finished serving his term. It doesn't look like the same country. It is cleaner. It's amazing what he did in a very short period of time, and it's unfortunate that he's currently being unjustly held at The Hague for crimes against humanity. So we've gotten so soft worldwide that requiring or expecting discipline and respect out of people is a crime against humanity. So anyway, and I don't want to get political, I will say this to people who read mainstream media back home. And if you've read or seen on your big flat screen TV about how terrible he is and blah, 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 and come here, spend some time here, and you'll see things differently. So it's a little cloudy, but normally on a cloudless day, you can look down and see the city of Davao down here, and you can see the Bay of Davao. You can see the sea. It's a beautiful view. So anyway, fast forward, because I've been talking for 12 and a half minutes. The time comes, the trip comes, we're leaving on July 6th. So he says, we should do something on the 4th of July. I said, wonderful. So he says, me and my girlfriend will come, we can come to your place. And I said, great. I said, my neighbors who live right behind me, they're wonderful people. They're having a get together and they're having an amazing fireworks show, which they did. It was the most amazing private fireworks show I've ever seen in my life. I felt like I was in DC or New York. Now, typically my family and I go to another place, and my wife wanted to go to the other place because we have a lot of friends that go there, and we've never been apart on the 4th of July. So I told her, you and Daniel go there. I'm going to go to our neighbors, and because my friend's coming and his girlfriend, and so, you know, it's closer. We don't want to be out too late because we got this trip coming up. So he's supposed to get there on the 4th of July. He's supposed to be there noonish, midday. Text me at noon. We're just getting on the road. Okay, no problem. Text me at 2 o'clock. We have to turn around because to take care of some problem, whatever. Okay. Things happen. He was excited. He's not there by 5, by 6. The party started at 6. So I texted. I said, hey, I'm going to go up to my friend / neighbor's house back here, but text me when you get here because I'll come back down to my house and I'll pick you guys up and we'll go up to my, oh yeah, okay, we might be an hour late. Okay, well, an hour comes by. I go down to my house to shut the chickens up, shut them up a little early so they wouldn't be outside after dark. I text him, where are you? We're almost to Charlottesville. Okay, 8 o'clock. Where are you? Oh, we're in Charlottesville. Great. It's kind of late, but the fireworks are going to start here in about an hour because, we're not coming to your house. Huh? Well, they ended up staying in a hotel in Charlottesville the whole weekend. We never saw them. It was crazy. And a little bell was going off in my head. Kevin, there's something going on here. Should you take this guy on his trip? So I'm like, yeah, things happen. And you know, his girlfriend didn't get to go on the trip, and he said, well, you know, she doesn't get to go, so I wanted to show her a good time in a different town. And it's believable, right? So, okay, I get it. So we pick him up from his hotel in Charlottesville, drive 2 hours to DC, take our first flight, 6-hour flight from DC to San Francisco. Again, take all this in. I'm going to try to stay out of it more so you can see the background. Get to San Francisco. We got about a 2-hour layover. He says, let's go to the bar and get a drink. I said, hey, why not? And we'd had a couple on the plane. I wasn't affected by it. We get into the airport. We go to the bar. We're sitting there. He orders a beer and a shot of vodka. And I'm like, dude, we're getting on a plane. We're going to be on for 15 hours. You might want to watch it. I got a beer. We're sitting there. Somebody calls him. And I can hear the person on the other side of the phone saying, let me talk to Kevin. And my friend was saying, you're not talking to Kevin. And I said, is that, and I mentioned his brother's name. I said, I haven't seen him or talked to him in like years. It had literally been like 14 or 15 years. So I grabbed the phone from him and I say, hey, his name. I said, how are you? It's been so long. The guy says, do not take my brother to the Philippines. And I was like, why? He says, Kevin, he is a raging blackout alcoholic and it only takes one drink. He will throw the N-word around more than you've heard it in your life. He will start bashing people with alternative lifestyles, transgenders. He will become violent. He will break things. He will either get arrested or he will get killed, and he will get you and your family in trouble too. You cannot take my brother with you to the Philippines. So my first thought is, man, this guy's brother must hate him. And we come from the same place, and it's a toxic mentality. It's what's called crab mentality. A lot of people, as in most, never leave that area, and they never really do anything with their lives. They don't achieve, they don't accomplish, and they don't want anybody else to either. So it's like you get a bunch of crabs in a bucket you're going to take home and boil. The crabs don't really know what's going on, but they know it's not good. Well, the ones that are trying to get out keep getting pulled back down by the ones who don't want to leave. That's what a crab mentality is. So I'm thinking, well, we do come from the same place. Back in Appalachistan, it's probably just a crab mentality. So I let it go. I soon found out it was not crab mentality. And I'm not going to give you the play-by-play and tell you everything that happened, but I am going to tell you quite a bit of it. So we took a 15-hour flight, 36 hours total travel time. We got to Manila, and of course he was jonesing for a cigarette. Now, from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco, at one point in the middle of that flight, he got up to go to the restroom, the airplane restroom. No big deal, right? A stewardess comes on the intercom and says, I want to remind all passengers that there is absolutely no smoking on the plane. So to the gentleman who is smoking in the bathroom at this very minute, extinguish your cigarette immediately, or we will have law enforcement waiting on you when we reach San Francisco to arrest you. Everybody turns around, looks back, and here comes my friend out of the bathroom of the plane. And I was like, that did not just happen. No way. So anyway, he couldn't go that long without a cigarette. So we get to Manila, and he spends his time outside chain smoking. The whole time he was here, he was chain smoking and binge drinking. It was 9 a.m. We had to wait 2 hours to fly down to Davao City. He says, let's get a beer. Like, friend, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, it's 9 p.m. back home. Let's get a beer. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Got a couple of beers in the airport. They didn't serve them on the plane. Fortunately, it was only a 1 hour and 20-minute flight. I'm going to go back through. No, I'm going to go this way. And we get to Davao City. There is a smoking ban in Davao City. That was part of Rudy Duterte instilling his discipline, because people would smoke, they'd throw their butts down everywhere. They trashed it up. Pollution was a real problem. Now, you can smoke in your own private residence if it's your private residence. You cannot smoke in hotels, motels, and certainly at resorts like this. You can't smoke here. Now, I could carry a beer around with me and drink anywhere I want to. And as a matter of fact, yesterday afternoon, me and 3 of my brothers-in-law actually were doing that. We're having a good time. Dearly will be putting a lot of footage of this trip on our Homesteading Off the Grid Facebook page and her channel, Life with Dearly, here on YouTube. So you'll get to see that. We got to catch fish, tilapia, twice the size of my hand. And 10 minutes later, they had them on our table and we were eating them. They take them off your hook, run them to the kitchen, cook them however you request. It's unbelievable. But you can't smoke anywhere, right? So we get off the plane in Davao City. He's like, where can I smoke? I'm like, you can't smoke here. I explained it to him. He's going around the parking lot saying, I traveled 36 hours to get here. I should have the GD right to smoke wherever I want. I said, friend, did these folks contact you and say, will you please come to our country? I said, this isn't our country. We must obey their laws, and I respect their culture, and I hope you're going to do that as well. So we get a taxi to go to our hotel. It's the nicest hotel in the city. Listen, this is a first-class 5-star trip. And it was free to him. It cost me $20,000. Me and my family, well, $22,000 now, and I'm going to get to that. So we're driving through the city, and I'm pointing out where Dearly and I used to live. Oh, Dearly and I lived there before Daniel was born. She wasn't even pregnant yet. And then we lived over here when he was 3 months old, blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to point out parts of the culture. And all he keeps saying is, he says, Kevin, who gives up F? Of course, he didn't say F. He said the whole word. And I said, you can't say that. This gentleman is doing, the taxi driver, it's a Catholic nation. There is a lot of Muslims here in Mindanao, but they take that seriously. I said, you can't be using that language in front of this gentleman. He's like, oh, my bad. I didn't know. Then I'd tell him something else. Look at this. This is how they do this. Hey, Kevin, who gives an F? And I'm thinking, well, he's jonesing for a cigarette. So we finally reach the hotel. A lot of these hotels, as in all of them, they know that people who smoke are going to smoke. They don't want them hiding in their room smoking and making it smell like cigarette smoke. I'm really biting my tongue a lot here. So they have hidden smoking areas. This hotel had a hidden smoking area. I said, let's have lunch. You can have a cigarette after lunch. I had no clue how much this guy's addictions were controlling him. He is not in control of his life. His addictions are nicotine and alcohol. So we're sitting at the table, me and a bunch of our family members who have met us here. Gosh, this is so beautiful. I said, go ahead. I told Dearly what to order for me. I said, I got to take him to smoke. So we go to the smoking pit, one after another. He didn't eat. He the entire lunch period, he's out there chain smoking. So, and he finally came in as we were finishing up. He started drinking beer and vodka. They had to, listen, the bar wasn't even open yet. The bar didn't open until 6 p.m., but out of courtesy and out of the request of a Western tourist, they got the keys and went into the bar to bring him vodka. They recommended, sir, it's still like 11 a.m., perhaps you should just have a beer. Maybe it was noon, but I got to have the vodka too. So they do this for him. Fast forward, he's very intoxicated very soon. So my family's in the room resting. I wanted nothing more than to be in the room with my family resting after a 36-hour trip. But no, we got to go to the bar. Taking the bar, they were doing karaoke. Karaoke's really big over here. I met a group of wonderful Filipino people. They were about my age, early 50s, late 40s, and it turns out they were first responders, and they were there together as a group for a training session, a nice weekend. So I started singing with them. Met a guy, a Filipino man, part of this EMS group. He was the leader. He was in the Filipino Air Force, and he actually did search and rescue training at Fort Benning, Georgia, in the U.S. So we had that connection. I was an airborne infantryman, so of course I did all my training at Fort Benning. So what a small world. How wonderful it was to meet such an interesting individual. And he comes up, my friend, and just starts saying, who gives a F? Who gives a F? Who gives a F about anything you guys are talking about? No one cares. And the Filipino gentleman says, I think your friend's had too much to drink. And I says, I think he has too. Oh, but guess what? It was my turn to sing. So I get up on the stage. I said to my friend, sit here and have another drink and let me sing, and we're getting out of here. So while I'm singing Bon Jovi, It's My Life, I always do that when I'm over here. That's why I'm a little hoarse. All I do over here is sing and dance and have a great time with my wonderful family. We come here to have a great time, to do the things I told my friend we would do. I've been doing them, zip lining, island hopping. He was only here for 4 days. I hate to give you a spoiler, but that entire 4-day period, he did two things. Chain smoked and binge drank. Well, the third, which I'll get to. It's coming. What have you? So while I'm singing, I see a guard come in, and talk to my friend, and then he and the guard go out. And I'm thinking, well, my friend's just smoking, right? Going back out to smoke. And so after I'm done singing, the guy I'd been talking to who had been to Fort Benning comes up and he says, your friend was escorted to his room. He is belligerent, and the guard got him out of here before one of my friends killed your friend. I'm like, oh no, this is bad. So they put him in the room and they said, don't come out till daylight. Go to sleep, don't come out till daylight. And by this time it was midnight here. So I hung out with those Filipino folks for a while because they were interesting people. I had a good time singing, karaoke, knocking back some cold ones, not acting belligerent, of course, because I don't do that. And most people who, listen, there are people who can drink alcohol and they can control themselves. There are people like my friend who have absolutely no business consuming any sort of alcohol in any amount. And trust me, it gets better. You're going to find out why. And trust me, the humidity is getting higher. So, oh, what a beautiful view. I got to show you this. So the next day, what is it that we do? We check out of that hotel. Oh no, 6 a.m. Bang, bang, bang. He's banging on my door. I open the door. Mind you, I got to bed after midnight. 36-hour trip. I've got jet lag and everything. I open the door. My friend's in the hallway, drunk off his backside, saying, "Where's everybody at? Let's party." I'm like, everybody's asleep because it's 6 a.m. He goes, well, it's 6 p.m. back home. I'll be in the casino. The hotel had a casino. He goes to the casino, drinking and gambling at 6 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, we get him out of there early, right after breakfast. We have a private driver here now. We didn't the first day, but the whole time we're here, we rent a nice car, and we hire a private driver that we've known for years. He's become a family friend. Basically, he works for me for life. When my family and I come to this country, he's a taxi driver. Ordinarily, he gets the entire time off, and he stays with us. They actually grow vegetables here, and all the vegetables that they grow here are served in the restaurant. The lettuce that I ate with my salad for dinner last night was grown right here. This is an amazing place. Could you imagine being invited on this trip for free? Once in a lifetime opportunity, no doubt, right? So we go to the next island over, where we spend 2 nights, 3 days. My friend did not join us snorkeling. We snorkeled on the coral reefs. We tried to get him to come. I said, friend, these are the things you were excited to come do. Let's go do it. He said, F those fish. They're a bunch of effing minnows anyway. I'm like, they're metallic blue. They're neon green. You won't see, and the coral itself, it's purple, it's pink. They've got the most beautiful coral reefs here in the world. F that. I saw that on the Discovery Channel on YouTube. F that. Let's get a drink. Of course, he had never not had a drink or 4 packs of cigarettes a day since we'd gotten here. I said, we can drink later. And I do. I go out with my family. We have a good time. And then at the end of the day, we'll get together for drinks. Then we'll have dinner, have a nightcap, go to bed, make sure to get a good sleep so we can get up the next day and go do more of these amazing things there are to do here. He didn't do any of the things he was supposedly so excited about to come do. So we left him. Now, I showed him the smoking area. This is a resort that is so dear to us. We had our son's first 5 birthdays there before we went to the U.S. when he was 5 years old. The people know us by name. I once was gone for 7 years without returning because I was having some financial difficulties. When I stepped off the private boat they have and stepped onto the resort, 2 guys came running at me. 2 guys that work there came running at me saying, Sir Kevin, Sir Kevin. Not just did they recognize me, they knew me and they remembered my name. It was amazing. That's how wonderful these people are. And not just the guys at the resort. If you come to the Philippines and you treat the Filipino people with respect and dignity, they will respond in kind. Like most people around the world, right? So I show him the smoking area. So while I go to show him, he says, hang out with me while I have a smoke. I'm like, okay. So he's smoking. Then he has number 2. Then he had, and there was an aviary right behind us. He's like, what the F's all that effing noise? I'm like, and I said, a collection of at least 100 different type of exotic tropical birds like you've never seen. Told him when we got there, after you smoke a cigarette, we'll go up here and I'll show you these birds. F them, they're birds. I've seen birds. I'm like, not like here though. Yeah, I've seen them on YouTube and the Discovery Channel. So when he lights up his 4th cigarette, that's my first breaking point. And I say to him, I I don't smoke, first of all, and I did a number of years back, and I quit because I saw that I was not in control of my life. The cigarettes were in control of my life. Just like him, if I went anywhere, my first thing I had to do was find where I could smoke. And I didn't want to be controlled like that, so I quit. And it was hard. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, and that was, Daniel was 3 years old. He's 14 now, so that was 11 years ago. So I said, I don't smoke. I'm not a smoker. I didn't come here to spend my time in the bars and at the smoking areas. You smoke as much as you want. I'm going to stop neglecting my family, and I'm going to go hang out with them. And that's what I did. We went, we swam, we snorkeled, we went to see the beautiful fish on the coral reefs. So I come up out of the water. This is several hours later, and he's there. He's sitting there where we were snorkeling. And I said, friend, out of respect for people associated with him, I'm not going to use his name. This is not to embarrass him. If you know me back home personally and you ask me who this was, I'm not going to tell you, because this is not to embarrass someone. This is, well, I'll get to it at the end. I say, get in the water and look at the fish. He's F these fish. So I get out, I'm talking to 2 Coast Guard members who were there and the lifeguard. And the next thing I know, the lifeguard rushes off and jumps into the water. He's saving my friend. My friend had fallen off the pier, 4 feet drop into the water, which fortunately was about 10 feet there, and he was sinking quickly to the bottom. The lifeguard had to save him. I was a lifeguard for 7 years in my youth. In the summers, I would be a lifeguard at my local community's local pool. You know how many saves I have? 0. This was my friend's first day at a beach in the Philippines, and a lifeguard was saving him. So we go back to our table in the restaurant area, which is on the beach, to sit there for a bit. And he says, let's go smoke. And I said, friend, I don't smoke. You can go smoke if you want. And so he did. He went to the smoking area. I saw my son, Daniel, who I'd practically been neglecting up until this point, and one of my brothers-in-law out on the pier. So I go out to hang out with them. We're talking, having a good time, watching the beautiful sunset, because we were on the other side of the bay from the city we're staying in now. And so we could look over, and we were pointing out this resort. Like, look, that's Eden Resort. We're going to be there in a few days because, we have this planned out. Of course, we had to change days because of this guy. Nothing has worked to plan until the last few days, because he's not here. I'm getting to it. The last 3 days have been the most enjoyable 3 days I can remember over the last few years. We've been having a great time. So we're on the pier, and my brother-in-law says, hey, your friend's coming back. So we look over. Here he comes walking down the beach, fully dressed. He's got his shirt on. He looks out into the water, and there was an amazingly beautiful young Filipino woman out there. She was probably 18, 19, very young. She looked good, and she was swimming with who appeared to be her mother and her little sister. There was a girl there who was about 10 years old, and they were having fun. Well, I guess my friend saw that young woman, and he liked what he saw, so he just starts making a beeline into the water. Doesn't take his shirt off, doesn't take his slippers off, just right out into the water. They saw him coming, and they got scared, and they ran out of the water. And my brother-in-law says, Kuya, that means big brother here. He says, you got to go get your friend. Because after they ran out of the water, he starts walking towards another group of girls, and their father was there, and he got in front of his girls and was telling them to back up. And you could tell he was prepared to knock an MFer out, and that MFer was my friend that I brought on this trip. Fortunately, my friend tripped and fell and started drowning once again. So fortunately, maybe, there was another lifeguard on that end of the beach. He went in the water or rescued him. My friend was rescued by lifeguards twice in one afternoon. So there were conversations, and it was determined that it would be best if he just went back to his room and stayed there. So, and we got him his private room. He gets his own private room on this whole trip. Okay. So I say, listen, you need to go to the room and stay there. He says, all right, whatever. You don't want me around? You kick me off the island? What? I said, friend, you need to go to the room. You're going to, and I said to him, but he wouldn't, there's no way he could remember any of this. He was blackout drunk. There would be a period of maybe 1 hour a day where he hadn't gotten to that point yet. If he would actually go to sleep, which he didn't sleep or eat on this trip. I explained, this is my home. My wife is from here. My son was born here. If you have a problem here, I have a problem here because I'm your host. And what they'll do is they will deport you. Now, they don't take you home. You have to pay your own way out. and they call it blacklisting. They'll put you on a blacklist and you are not allowed to come back for 10 years. He's like, who gives a F? Who gives a F? I don't care. This is a third world crap hole anyway. I said, I care. My family is here. My Filipino family has treated me better than my family of origin, from whom I'm estranged and will be for the rest of my life. They've treated me better than that family. They've treated me better than anybody. And these are Dearly's brothers and sisters. These are our nieces and nephews. I says, I don't want to go 10 years without being allowed to come to where my son was born and see my family. And his response, of course, is, who gives a F? Who gives a F? I said, stay in your room. Well, the next morning, we had a wonderful dinner that evening. There was a live band. There were about 40 people in attendance by the end of the concert. We were all dancing in the sand. It was beautiful. I met some wonderful Filipinos, mostly who live overseas in the U.S. and European nations, Canada, and they're home to visit. Had a wonderful, wonderful time. So the next morning, we're all up early. We decide we're going to get motor scooters. And this is one of the things my friend said he wanted to do. He wanted to get mopeds and drive around the islands. I said, that's what we do. So we get up. We're going to take mopeds out to these beautiful falls from a river, freshwater river, and swim for a few hours. We did it. But we're waiting on him to wake up. And I thought, well, he's been drinking a lot, jet lag. I said, I'll go check on him. So I go to his room. And now the day before, he was smoking on the porch and just throwing cigarette butts everywhere. And I said, listen, they'll cut you a little bit of slack. I took an empty beer bottle, San Miguel Light, it's a glass bottle, put a little bit of water in it. I said, this is how people do it here. They stay on their porch, they smoke, and then they'll drop the butt in the bottle. They won't say anything to you if you just do that, because it's 300 or 400 yards to the designated smoking area. Let me give you a better view. Look at this. So this time, at least, there were no cigarette butts on the porch like there had been the day before. He never used the bottle. He just threw them right on the porch. So I thought, oh, he's finally starting to get it. He's sobering up or whatever. I open the door to his room and cigarette smoke rolls out. This is a 5-star luxury island beach resort. Cigarette butts all over the floor, half-empty beer bottles all over the nightstand. He was asleep. He was finally asleep. So I went out and I told my family, I said, we're going without him. We're going without him. We went out and we had 4 or 5 hours out, had a wonderful time, swam in the falls. Like I said, Dearly's posting footage of all that on her channels and pages. Life with Dearly here on YouTube. She probably won't upload anything until we get back to the U.S. because she's having so much fun. She doesn't want to take the time to do it. And then Homesteading Off the Grid on Facebook. She's uploading there because that's faster. It's shorts and reels and pictures. So, but it's not full-length videos. We had a great time. We get back, same like the day before, except he didn't almost drown because he never went in the water. And he came down. I kept going to the room and saying, hey, come down for lunch. No, come down for dinner. I'll be down in a minute. Just got a shower. An hour goes by. Nobody ordered dinner yet. Go back to his room. He's laying in his bed watching Fox News, smoking cigarettes, and drinking beer in his 5-star resort room where he is not allowed to smoke cigarettes. So he comes all the way to the other side of the world to watch Fox News, binge drink, and chain smoke. I said, do you want to come down for dinner? No. So he didn't. So me and Dearly are racking our brains, and she says, I know of one hotel in Davao where you can still smoke, at least last time we were here. And it was kind of a dive. It was a dive. By our standards. We left that resort to go to that hotel just so this guy could smoke and not get in trouble for it. So we get there. Well, you can't smoke there now either. The whole city, it's all gone. Even that was the end of it. So same thing. And I said, you do you, me and my family are going to do me. And I was meeting that evening with my best friend here in the Philippines. His name is Ray. We call each other bro because we're so close. We're like brothers, even though he's 2 or 3 years older than me. Actually, he's in his 82nd year, and he looks better than most 60-year-olds I know back home. Definitely, he's in better shape, better health, and looks way better than the friend that I brought with me, who's my age, 51 years old as well. So Ray comes to the hotel to pick me up. He meets my friend, and he's like, should we take him with us? And I said, no, absolutely not. And I told him how my friend had acted to that point. He says, Kevin, no one's that bad. No one goes to another country half a world away and does that. And I said, that's the guy that does. He goes, let's give him another chance. Let's bring him with us. So we did. We went to a wonderful 5-star bistro. It was called Blarney's, an Irish pub and restaurant, owned by one of the most amazing people I've ever met. His name's Andrew. Shout out, Andrew, if you're watching. He's a very successful businessman here in the Philippines. He's from England originally. He's been here about 25 years. He owns more than a dozen successful businesses here, to include that restaurant and bar. He's got a beautiful Filipino wife. He's got 4 children who are half Filipino, half English. His oldest son is actually a television celebrity. He's a pop star here in the Philippines. He was showing me video footage. There's a television station here, CBS, PBN. They have a show on Sundays called ASAP, where all they do is sing and dance, and most of the folks in the country watch it. He's one of the singers and dancers and actors on that show. This kid is successful beyond measure. It's incredible the life this man's living over here. So he joins us after giving us complimentary appetizers. He gave this beautiful place of roast beef with gravy, and he said, try this, gentlemen. My friend's doing his thing. F this, F that. Nobody cares. Why can't I smoke in here? I traveled 36 hours to get here. I should be able to smoke wherever I want. So my friend Ray says, here, Kevin's friend, try this. Try this. Let us know if it's any good. He devours it. He didn't share. He didn't try it and let us know if it was any good. He devoured the whole plate. And Ray was looking at him like, where'd you get this guy? And Ray said, it's okay. Didn't you tell me he hasn't even eaten? I said, that's probably the first food he's eaten in 24 hours. He said, so it's understandable. Forget about it. The owner of that establishment joined us for dinner. He sat at our table. And Ray's a businessman. Ray is a very successful businessman. He sold software in the UK, and that job took him around the world. He's been to the U.S. a ton of times. He's been to Key West. I was able to sit here in the Philippines and talk to a man from England about how wonderful it is in Key West, because we've both been there. He's a worldly man, worldly experiences, sold accounting software, and he's a businessman here. He owns a boarding house that he lets out to 36 people. It's close to a college. It's like a private dorm. They have to pay him to live there. He's been doing that for 10 years. I've been there. So anyway, this Englishman, Andrew, who owns this establishment, is telling us all this stuff about his businesses, how he's succeeded. He's self-made, like myself and like Ray. He wasn't born into money. Nobody ever gave him anything. Anything he has because he worked to earn it, like myself and Ray. At one point, I was referred to as a self-made millionaire, and my friend says, oh, that's BS, Kevin ain't no self-made millionaire. And I looked at him and said, well, who gave it to me? Who gave it to me? Of course, he didn't have an answer for that. So he was just making a scene. I was apologizing to the family beside us. There was a wonderful family right beside us. I actually ended up paying for their dinner. I went to the bar and I told the bar manager, I gave him one of my credit cards. I said, pay for their dinner on this card, but do not tell them it was me. Just tell them it's complimentary and that you would really love for them to come back. Because I can guarantee you, they were not coming back, and they still might not. I hope they do. You know, they still might not come, though, despite somebody comping their $100 U.S. dinner. And that's an expensive dinner in the Philippines. That's lunch in Charlottesville, Virginia, but that's dinner at a 5-star place here because of the conversion, $1.55 pesos. So, my friend saying, who gives a F, who gives a F, Kevin's a liar. He started talking. No, wait, I got it. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. He had to urinate. No, it was after this. He starts talking to a beautiful young Filipino woman, probably in her mid-20s, who had sat down after that family left. He goes and sits beside her and hits her on the side of the leg and says, hey, what are you doing? I had to go grab him, and we put him on the other side of the owner. And the owner says, you sit here. This is the only place you're allowed to sit. I don't know why the guy didn't. Well, I do know why he didn't throw us out, because he was having as much of an enjoyable time talking to me and Ray as we were him. He couldn't just throw my friend out, because if he did, he would either get killed or arrested. That's all there is to it. So a few minutes later, my friend says, I gotta, urinate. Where's the urinator? So I take him. He's in there. While he's in there, I'm standing waiting for him because I was not going to leave him alone. I start talking to 2 wonderful Filipino gentlemen who were at the end of the bar there. One of them says, I think your friend's had a lot to drink tonight. And I said, my friend's had a lot to drink for the last few days. The other guy says, sir, I think your friend's had a lot to drink for the last few years. And I says, yeah. So my friend comes out of the bathroom. He walks up to these guys and he says, hey, you guys should see Kevin's wife. She's hot. And they're like, oh yeah, really? Well, that's nice. That's a good thing if your wife's hot. And he says, yeah, you could probably letter F her, and I'm not trying to, this is what was said, because she's a Filipina. These guys were so disgusted. One turned his back, and you're probably saying, how did you not hospitalize him? It's because I had to keep the other guy from doing it. The owner had made his way to us. Ray had made his way to us, and the owner looks at us at this time, and he says, Kevin, I'm sorry, but I think it's time that you take your friend out of here. You need to take him somewhere else. He's no longer safe here, and he's no longer welcome. And I said, Andrew, it was an honor meeting you. It was a pleasure, but I'm terribly sorry this happened. He says, he said it was your fault for bringing him, but you weren't the one that acted like this. I will bear no ill will towards you. You're always welcome back here. You and Ray, I'd love it if you come back before you leave the Philippines. Love to talk to you some more, but do not bring him. He's not welcome. I said, okay, trust me, I won't. And as we are being led out of this fine establishment, my old friend is yelling at the top of his lungs, who cares? F these people anyway. Filipinos are nothing but a bunch of effing N-words. And these women aren't even real. They probably all have D-words, in reference to male genitalia. His brother's warning from the airport in San Francisco had been 100% accurate. So we make our way back to the dive of a hotel. And I tell him, I say, friend, do me one favor. Do not smoke in your room. Please go down to the smoking area. And so I go to bed. I go in, I tell Dearly about the nightmarish evening we had. She, by the way, that evening, her and Daniel and my wonderful Filipino family went out and had a nice dinner. They enjoyed each other's company. They relaxed. They didn't have to deal with this. So at some point in the night, the very early morning, 4, 5, almost 6, something like that, get a knock on the door. Wakes up Dearly, and I'm like, I open the door. It's the guard of the hotel. The guard informs us that my friend was caught smoking in his room. He was personally escorted down to their hidden smoking area, which is back behind the hotel where they're doing some construction. They said, sir, we have a chair here. You can smoke even though you're not supposed to. It's like, don't ask, don't tell. Put your butt in this container. He picks up the chair. He starts slamming it against the side of the hotel, going off about how he spent 36 hours to get here. He should be able to F and smoke wherever he GD wants. The guard came up and told me, if you don't get your friend and get him out of this hotel, I'm going to get a police officer and he will be arrested. So I texted him, said, are you awake? His response, yeah, let's party, let's get a beer. I said, are you in your room? He says, yeah. So I guess he'd made it back up to his room. I go to his room and I said, pack your things. You have 10 minutes. I'm taking you to the airport. I'm buying you an airline ticket and I'm sending you home. This is where the other $2,000 came in. He couldn't last long enough to return on the plane with us back home. I had to send him home. He refused. He starts laughing, asking me what the F I'm talking about. And I said to him, you and I clearly are not the same people who knew each other 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, sadly, nearly 50 years ago. I said, life has taken us down different paths because we made different choices. He's laughing. What's the F that even mean? And I said to him, you don't want to see who I've become. You have 8 minutes. If you're not packed in that time, I will go to the street and I will get a Filipino police officer and I will come up and he will take you to jail. So you can either go to the airport with me or you can spend the rest of our time here in a Philippines prison and I will not bail you out. You'll have to contact whoever it is in your life that has allowed you to get to this point back in the U.S. and they're going to have to get you out because I'm done with you. He's like, Kevin. He looks like he's going to cry. And I think in that moment he understood. I said, you've got 7 minutes. I'll be back. I left. I went and I told Dearly, I just put on my clothes. I got my wallet, got some cash, made sure I had a credit card to buy his ticket. And again, I mentioned credit cards. I use those here. Then, of course, I pay them off in full when I get home. It just makes everything easier. So I go to his room and he's not packed. He says, let's talk about this. I said, okay, I'm going to go down and get a police officer. I'll be back in 5 minutes. So I went down into the lobby and I just waited. 3 minutes later, He was down in the elevator zipping his suitcase. Took him out, got a taxi, whole way to the airport. He's like, what happened? What I did? This guy gets so blackout drunk. He has no knowledge of what he's doing, and he clearly has no memory of what he's done afterwards. And he's got a wet brain. I'm not a doctor, but I would say this guy's drank himself to the point to where he has a wet brain. He cannot function. For that one little hour of each day where he was somewhat coherent because he finally passed out and maybe got a couple of hours of sleep, he doesn't remember what you talked about the day before. He would ask the same questions, and I would say, we talked about this yesterday. He's got no memory of that. Indication of a wet brain. It's terrible. So anyway, the whole way to the airport, he keeps saying, can't we make this right? I said, we're making it right now. You're going home. There's no options. You're either going to go home or you're going to a Filipino jail. If we get to the airport and you refuse to get on that plane, I will have you arrested, and whoever has enabled you, whoever back home has allowed you to become so damaged, thinking, I'm sure in their mind, that they were protecting you or helping you, they can be the ones to get you out of a Filipino prison and get you home, because I'm done. You've ruined the first 4 days of this trip, my family's trip back to our other home, with our wonderful Filipino family here, our friends. I mean, what an embarrassment he was in front of my bro, Ray, the English gentleman who kicked us out of his bar. In that moment, I was embarrassed to be an American. Not because of who's in the White House, not because of who was in the White House last term, not because of any of that. I mentioned when he said the very derogatory thing about my wife, when those two Filipino gentlemen turned their backs to, or when the one turned his back to us and the one was ready to kill us or kill him. As the one turned his back, I heard him say, typical Americans, with an S, because we're known by the company we keep, and birds of a feather flock together. Once upon a time, I guess myself and this guy, we were birds of a feather. We were each other's company. But that was then, and this is now. And in a way, perhaps, because everything happens for a reason, perhaps he was a mirror showing me, sadly and admittedly, in many ways, what I used to be like to a degree. He's certainly showing me what I may be like today if I'd not made different choices to become who I am today. But at the end of the day, it was very heartbreaking. And now, you've been with me for almost an hour. I need to finish this up just so my phone doesn't die. I've toured you around the whole garden. I'm going to start walking up the trail through the jungle to rejoin my family. You hear this and you think, oh, this is such a tragic story about addiction. Yes. And then you say, well, this is a tragic story about enabling. Who enabled him to the point to where he could get to this level? Well, that's true as well. But to me, there's a theme here that I see regularly because I'm a youth sports coach. I've coached off and on for 25 years. I've coached 9 months out of the year for the last 8 years because I've been so heavily involved with my son and his teams. And this winter was great. We finally won ourselves a championship in our league in basketball. It's been a great ride. So there's something that I see regularly that is at issue here with my friend. And it's in regards to male children. So many people overlook this. They don't see it. It's the issue of over-mothering and under-fathering. And listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying single moms. He didn't have a single mom. His parents were married until they weren't when he was almost an adult. Single mothers do a great job if they put forth the effort of raising boys and turning them into men. I have a best friend back home, one of them, whose father died at 11, and his 3 sisters and his mother raised him, and he's more of a man than most men I know. Not to discount the fact that when he was a young adult, he was in an accident that took away the use of his legs. He spent the last 50 or 60 years in a wheelchair. Despite that, he went to college, got a bachelor's, got a master's, got a PhD in science and was a scientist for years. Got bored with that, so he went to law school, got a law degree and became a lawyer. One of the most successful men, real men I've ever met in my life. So it's not that single mothers can't turn boys into men because they can. The problem with over-mothering and under-fathering happens when there is a married couple, a husband and a wife, and it's the mother Listen, when boys are babies, when they're infants, they need cuddled, they need coddled. But as the boy ages and grows, the mother needs to let go more and more, coddle less and less. Let that little boy fall down and see what it's like to get hurt and have to get back up on his own. And then as puberty draws close, oh, this is so beautiful. I was trying to walk away from noise, but you guys see this. As he physically starts to become a man, it's so important for the father to step in and say, all right, this is how you do it. This is how you get from point A to point B. And it's not even an issue of socioeconomics. I work with kids who come from wealthy families, or at least very well-to-do families, who are clearly overmothered and underfathered, and they never become responsible, they never become independent, they never be able to do for themselves. And I've talked to some of these fathers who are in this situation about this, and they don't get it. Their attitude is, well, I work, I earn, I provide, my family has this huge house and everything we want, so that's my job. My wife can deal with the kids. Well, your wife will probably do a pretty good job of showing your girls how to become women, how to become successful, how to get educations, so that they don't have to depend on a man for money, which of course makes it less likely that they would end up in an abusive relationship. That's wonderful for your daughters, but your sons are drowning. If you have a male child who is being overmothered and underfathered, there is a very high degree chance that your boy is going to end up like my friend, who's not a man. He's an adult boy. He's a 3-year-old that's out of control in a 51-year-old's very decrepit, very broken down, very ill body. My son at 14 is more of a man than my friend ever was. My son, he said, Dad, you got to get rid of this guy. He says, I'm going to take care of him. And I said, do not hit my friend. He says, oh, I'm not going to hit him. I said, what are you going to do? He says, I'm going to introduce him to tackle football. I said, what? He said, I'm going to tackle him, and then I'm going to hop back into a 3-point stance. And when he gets back up, I'm going to tackle him again. I'm going to hop into a 3-point stance, and I'm going to do that until he doesn't get up. I mean, that's how much we were finished with it. And so I got his tickets, saw him onto the plane. Now he has to fly to Manila. I don't know what happened after that. I hope he didn't leave the airport, because if he did, one of two things: he's either in prison right now or he's dead, because this was a couple of days ago. I don't know. I do not know where he is, but I know he's no longer with us. And if he ends up in a Filipino prison, whoever it was that enabled him back home to get to this level, they can deal with getting him out of that prison and getting him home, because I'm done. I'm done. But my son texted me when I was on my way back to the hotel from the airport. He was asleep, of course, when I left there at 6 a.m. And he says, Dad, I am so happy you made this decision. This was the right thing to do. I know that you've known that guy for almost 50 years, but this was the right decision. He says, this was one of your most wonderful fathering lessons that you've taught me. I am so proud to have you as a father. You're the best father in the world. I cried in the taxi as I read that. So folks, again, this wasn't to embarrass my old friend. And whoever that person is back home that has allowed him to get to this point, I've got a message for you. If you do not get him locked up in a treatment center that he cannot leave for at least 30 days, and if that doesn't take, I'm estimating he's got 3 years left. If that, I don't know how he's here. I Googled wet brain yesterday because I was curious, and it showed the symptoms, the signs. He has all of them, and it said that 80%, or no, I think it was 80% of people that develop a wet brain are dead within 8 years. He's clearly been like this for some time. I don't know how much time's left, but if he left the airport in Manila and went out onto the streets, I promise you this, his time's up. So folks, I'm sorry to have brought you such a heart-wrenching story, but it's a story that needs to be told. Again, not to embarrass my friend, but I hope that this story might save not just the life of somebody out there, but the lives of many wonderful boys who are being overmothered and underfathered and who are being turned into these monsters. It's sad. It's sad. If my son were to end up like this guy, I'd rather not be here. I'd rather not be here than to see my son end up to become what my old friend has become. So with all that said, and with Daniel in mind, I'm going to go rejoin him and my beautiful bride dearly, and we've got about a dozen of our wonderful Filipino family members here with us. I'll give you this parting shot of these beautiful papaya trees, large giant ferns, gorgeous banana trees that are 25 feet tall behind me. And I want to thank you for your nearly 1 hour's worth of time here at the most amazing homesteading channel on the planet that has nothing to do typically with homesteading whatsoever. Homesteading off the grid. See you for more next time.